of boring and technical, but at the same time, you know, we live in a world of, well, I can't speak for the world, the country of underslept and overfed people. And it starts this very first year of life. So if we were to be able to create those healthy habits the first year, guess what? We would live in a completely different world. So that's what I'm here to do. I want to help educate, teach, and give everybody the best chance of just being so healthy, because sleep is job one. No matter what you think or read or whatever, sleep is job one. Sleep feeds the brain, food feeds the body. They got to work together for a healthy human being.
So when you have a new baby, as I'm sure most of the people are in this chat because they really want to sleep.
Yeah.
What is realistic when it comes to newborn sleep? Like how many hours should a newborn be sleeping in the beginning when it comes to overnight?
So you believe it or not, you asked a lot of questions there without realizing you asked a lot of questions. Right. So when a baby is newborn, the first 6 weeks, they're basically working in a 24-hour cycle. So we should just see certain chunks of sleep, but then it's between that probably 5 and 7 weeks, they hit that 6-week growth spurt developmentally, and we should start seeing 6 to 8 hours for that first stretch at night. And then the majority of babies will then 3-hour you. Now, I like to back it up and take those first 6 weeks, and I want to say, how many hours does your baby need to sleep in a 24-hour period? Mm-hmm. And believe it or not, those first 3 to 4 weeks, it's about 20 hours a day. So basically the baby has enough time to eat, sleep, and poop, eat, sleep, and poop, eat, sleep, and poop. At about 6 weeks, we're looking at 18 to 19 hours in a 24-hour period. Mm-hmm. So if you've got those numbers down, I guarantee your baby is doing everything beautifully. But what we do is we overfeed.
Sorry to interrupt. Why are we so exhausted as new moms though? Like, what are we doing wrong? I mean, maybe other people don't feel this way, but I'm like, why am I so tired?
Well, it all really starts with being educated or not educated from the time the baby's born. So when we're even in the hospital, so I was a postpartum doula for years. And, you know, I was spending one-on-one time with newborns about 40 to 60 hours a week. So yeah, I used a lot of babies as guinea pigs, especially because when I was doing the work back in like 2002 to 2006, basically all the books were coming out. The Baby Whisperer, Happiest Baby on the Block. I could go on for days. But anyway, what it is it starts, what we are taught as new parents is right out of the gate. Just feed them, feed them, feed them, feed them, feed them, feed them, feed them. And then unfortunately, we have pediatricians really just sharing information that isn't healthy about sleep because they don't know about sleep. So if we were to learn about sleep, then it wouldn't be so exhausting. It is exhausting, make no mistake, because you just came off of giving birth, and then your sleep is going to be very choppy. But for the most part, it's not really meant to be that exhausting.
I have a question. I know you talk a lot about circadian rhythms. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what that was when you came to help me. So I'm sure there are some people on here that don't know what that is.
I know. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So circadian rhythms, fun fact, circadian rhythm research just finally got the very first Nobel Prize in 2019. So that's good news. We've always known about them, but it's really taking them serious. So circadian rhythms are a 24-hour cycle that goes on in our brains as human beings. So basically it's when the serotonin wants to switch over to melatonin, where our cortisol and all of the hormones that keep us alive want to fluctuate throughout the day and night. So, and circadian rhythms are put in place and they are non-negotiable. So basically, they're just the rhythms of being a human being. And it's just when the brain goes, okay, you know what, I'd really like to turn serotonin into melatonin now at a certain time. And like I said, we sit in a pretty much a 24-hour cycle. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay.
So what is your take on sleep training, and what is sleep training? Like for the layman out there who's never done it before.
Yeah. First of all, I think it's so detrimental that sleep training is a thing. So let me explain why. if we were to know what our babies needed from the time they were born, like what is their appropriate wake times, how should they be sleeping, when they should be eating appropriately, we wouldn't have to do any hardcore sleep training, right? Because basically we get into a lot of habits, building the brain connectors of a baby. I do this, you do this. And the consistency of it is just what the baby expects. But we get to a time where it's like, wow, this is not working. So then we have to train the baby to do different things. So I let me compare it to hiring a personal trainer or nutritionist, right? You know, you either like learn out of the gate, hey, I know how to eat well, or I gained 50 pounds. Now I gotta get my body in shape. I have to go get a trainer. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of the same thing. So sleep training is really designed to get the baby sleeping correctly, but really what it comes down to, it's about cleaning up all the habits that we did up to that point, and then really getting the child sleeping the right amount of time.
So then so when you say habits, what are the right habits? Because I do something really bad, and you're gonna never talk to me again after I tell you this.
I'm not committed to what you're doing. Trust me, or I'd never be able to get out of bed.
Okay, so I put my baby down. I know I'm not supposed to. I put my baby down. She's 15, second child. I've forgotten how many months she is. She's 15 months, and I put her down with a bottle because I have another child, and I'm so tired by the end of the day, and I have to deal with my 6-year-old, and she has still schoolwork to do, and I have to bath her and feed her. So I put my baby down at 6:30, but I put her down with the bottle. She finishes the bottle, and she passes out. Now, that works for us because I'm like, great. She sleeps until 6 with her bottle. But the problem is, and this is where you're probably going to say, this is why it's a bad habit, is sometimes when she does wake up, like maybe 3 nights out of the week, she will wake up at just say 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. It's because she wakes up and she's looking for the bottle and she doesn't know how to put herself back to sleep. So we have to get up at 4 or 5, give her the bottle again, and then she falls back asleep and then we sleep. We've gotten to such a bad habit that we're just choosing sleep over like the right things to do. So I don't know what to do in this situation.
Again, you just said a whole lot of stuff there.
I know, I talk a lot.
Well, where do you want me to start? So one of the things that you said, I think this is so important for every mom on this call to hear, or a parent on this call to hear. You said a golden thing there. You said she wakes up at around 4 or 5. If your child, and again, we can talk about all ages, but I'll be generous here and say if your child is over 4 months old, which yours is, over 4 months old, they know how to communicate with us, you guys. And here's the deal. If they are awake too long at the end of the day or crutch to sleep, you are check on both of those, is this. The 2 most common wake ups you're going to get is between 10:30 and midnight, give or take a little bit of time, and or between 3 and 5 a.m. If your children are waking up inside of those pockets, if they could talk, they'd say, it's because you messed up the beginning of the night. So what I mean by that is when a child goes to sleep overtired, their stressors are spiked. There's adrenaline, cortisol, glucose, and they crash and burn. So that is huge. You don't want your child to do that. You don't want your child to crash and burn. And how they communicate that to you is by those wake ups.
I had a full body like thing come over me when you said that. I was like, how did she, those are the 2 wake ups. When we do have a 2 wake up, it's that. But then how do you not get them overtired when like you put them down for a nap and then they decide that they want to sleep for 40 minutes or 2 hours? It's a crapshoot sometimes. Like, I don't know. How do you not make sure that how do you not let them be overtired?
Well, by knowing, that's what I mean. It's more about education and not just these like this. Well, how do you know? Well, if you understand your child's age-defined circadian rhythms, that's where you start. Like I would ask you, so would you like me to address the bottle?
I know you're like the school teacher that's like, I mean, come on, I know it's terrible.
You're not bad.
I'm not a bad mother, but I'm a tired mother. Yes.
Yeah. So let me talk about the bottle for just a second because it is a big deal. And then I'll talk about those times. Is first of all, I want you to know that what you're putting in that bottle is a problem too, because my guess is it's milk.
Goat milk, yeah.
Yeah, doesn't matter. Milk is milk.
Yeah.
And so what's happening is when your child at 15 months is laying down and sucking, it's shooting dopamine up to her brain or his brain. I think it's a girl. And that you said, right? You kept saying she. Am I correct in that? Oh,
yes. Just a lot of women in this house.
So you're shooting dopamine up to her brain. And when they suck and lie down, we are not designed to suck our calories after a year old because our bodies are up and down. So as we grow, we come like this. After a year old, we're designed to actually pick food up and eat it and hydrate by going like this. Or, not some, if you want to use a straw, but we are not designed to kick our heads back and suck out of a tiny hole because it shoots dopamine up to the brain. That's not a good habit, especially when you've got something with oxytocin in it, which a baby goat milk would have that. Mm-hmm. So that's why all of these are just not a good idea. And again, you're not a bad mom. We all do it. So don't even hear me criticizing because that's not what's coming out of my mouth at all. You're also wreaking havoc on her teeth.
I know.
So again, we'll talk after this. I'll put together a plan, but we can't do it on this particular call. Now, back to going to sleep. I would ask you, why did you pick 6:30? So everybody on the call, I would invite everybody to say, why did you pick the time that you put your child to sleep? Why did you pick that time?
I feel like by 6:30, she's had enough of
the
day. She turns into a little bit of a gremlin. And also, selfishly, 6:30 gives me an hour and a half with my older child to bath and spend time with her so she gets one-on-one attention. So if she goes down at 7, I don't have that with my older one.
Okay, so what if I told you that she's an excellent communicator and that by 6:30 she's had it? So here's how you know what time your child needs to go to bed. At around the 6-week mark, 95% of children will start waking up around 5:30 to 6 a.m., give or take a little time, sometimes a little later, sometimes. That is actually their way of saying, now my nighttime circadian rhythms are starting to organize, so guess what time I should be going to bed? 12 hours later. So believe it or not, your child's actual bedtime sits between 5 and 5:55 p.m. And I know she's tired. People are like, no, my kid's not tired. Listen, been around thousands of babies. Find me one under 18 months that is not tired after 6 p.m. Find me one, because I haven't met one, and I have a lot of experience with kids. So what they're saying is that between those times, now 5 is more of a corrective measure, but it is somewhere between 5:30 and 5:55 that your child's brain is saying, hey, this is the time that I'm getting tired. I would like to meet sleep in the middle. Mm-hmm. But once she gets past 6, her adrenaline, cortisol, glucose goes up, and then she has to crash and burn. You're the one who said she turns into a gremlin.
She does. Horrible.
Yeah. So does that make sense? Like, that's what I always ask people. Why did you pick that time?
But then sometimes she also sleeps until 7 or 8.
After you give her her bottle at 4?
I think so.
It's
actually my husband that does that one, so I'm gonna blame him. But yeah, I'm like, why sometimes is she sleeping till 7? Why sometimes she's sleeping till 8? Sometimes sleeping till 5? It's just like, why is it so hard to figure it out?
It's not that hard when you know what, because it's so this will really help too, because a lot of what I do too is I rise above the noise and I get everybody back to basics. And I like to use things that we can kind of really understand, but parenting, having a baby and learning to drive a car, somewhat similar. Like, I can guarantee almost anybody could get in a car for the first time behind the driver's side, whether you're a 13-year-old girl or a Harvard graduate. Mm-hmm. You could probably figure out how not to kill yourself or somebody else. You do some damage to the car, right? But you could do it because you've been watching your parents do it for years. So my question is, and after a while, you'd figure it out, because for years, people didn't get driver's ed. They figured it out. Or they didn't, whatever. Same thing with parenting. Why not get some education and stop this madness of figuring it out, right?
Yeah.
So that's the problem. There isn't enough education out there yet about appropriate sleep times because everybody wants the child to fit into their schedule. Over and over and over, you've talked about your schedule, which is fair enough. But again, that's not how babies work. Babies say, hey, I've got these circadian rhythms. Here's what times they work. The timing is everything. You don't have the times on, you're going to have the consequences of a child who wakes up 10:30 to midnight, 3 to 5, and so forth. And it's all going to be a big crapshoot.
We have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
So let's see here. Oh, so someone wanted to know, I also have this question, the difference about bedtimes and nap times. So if you have a really good nighttime sleeper, but you're struggling with naps, what's going on there?
That's a very, very, very common one because naps are always very fragile. A lot of times people don't know what are the appropriate nap times for each age. Also, you have to remember too that our cortisol and adrenaline and everything is a little higher during the day. So they are a little bit more fragile. The other thing too is that we create a lot of sleep crutches during the day that we don't have at night. So one of the things I want everybody to know is that it's all about sleep pattern breaks. Almost everybody will say, Davis, my kid only sleeps 30 or 45 minutes. Those are sleep pattern breaks. And what happens is they are natural, normal, and they have to happen. But what we do is we have a tendency at that 30-minute to say, well, nap's over. And then finally we're like, no, we want them to sleep later. And then their brain goes, well, I don't even know how to get to the next pattern. So it's all about knowing what time they need to be sleeping. So every question that you're going to ask, if anybody in the chat who has questions, please tell me how old your child is. And that's going to help me even answer it better.
For this one, it was a 6-month-old.
Okay.
Struggling with daytime naps, but sleeping well at night.
Yeah, that was me. So we sleep trained her at night. We did it. We did the cry out method. It worked for us. But now for naps, we are using crutches. So either I'm holding her to sleep or dad is bouncing her. I don't know. We try to do the cry out again for naps, but it's just, we're not getting there.
Okay, so before we hang up, I really want to take time to explain this cry it out that everybody talks about, okay? But I'm going to talk to you about this is going to take work. She's 6 months. She's very intelligent. So I can work one-on-one with you right now. What time does she wake up in the morning?
Around 7 a.m.
Around 7 a.m. Okay. So she does not wake up at all throughout the night?
She does wake up usually between 3 and 4 once for a feeding.
Okay. So she's actually not sleep trained at night.
Yeah, she's only 6 months, so I don't mind feeding her once right now. We went through the whole 4-month sleep regression. She was up every 2 hours. So
okay.
Right now,
oh boy, my head is exploding right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I promise you, she doesn't need to eat at 6 months. And that's exactly it. Like, she's not waking up. And I know you're okay with it, but my whole goal here is to really get people out of what we're okay with and actually like what exactly she's trying to communicate with you. So again, don't take it as criticism. I'm doing this to really, really educate. Okay. The fact that she's waking up between 3 and 4 is because you put her to bed too late. Cause I would bet everything I have that you are not putting her to bed between 5 and 5:55 p.m.
No, yeah, she definitely goes. I work until 6 every day, so there's like no way. I have like client calls until like 6 p.m. at least, so there's no way for me to put her to bed before 6.
So you're a great example. So, and that's okay because life happens, right? But your daughter is very clear, like just proving my point that I was talking about before, the education, is that she goes to sleep overtired just because life happens, right? But her circadian rhythms aren't going to change because our life. So what she's saying is that, hey, mama, I went to bed overtired. That's why you hear from me between 3 and 4. It's not because of hunger. It's because my stressors were spiked at the end of the day. So I would suggest you do nothing between 3 and 4. Let her go back to sleep, or you will forever be feeding her at that time. And she is too old to be digesting food throughout the night. It's cleansing, So basically, I want you guys to hear this. Sleep actually washes our brain and cleanses our bodies. If we're feeding when the child is too old, we're asking them to digest food during the night. And that's what you want to get away from. Calories during the day after a certain age, and then cleansing throughout the night and brain growth. So that's why she's waking up, just to let you know. Now you go into naps. So where she should be with naps is really around, she should probably be taking naps at waking up the time that she is, and you're going to see these tired signs probably around 8:30 and noon. If you stop that feeding, her wake up's probably going to back up more appropriately, and her nap time should probably begin between 7:30 and 8 a.m., 11:30 and 12 p.m., and around 4 p.m. for a short nap for a while. So those are her times.
If she wakes up in the morning at 7 a.m., I'm putting her down at 7:30 a.m., you said?
No. I said if we backed up and took that 3 to 4 a.m., because what she's doing is she's just finishing up her night sleep. But if she's like, if you were to say, my baby's a 7 to 7 baby, no, don't hear from her at all. I'd say, that's awesome. She sits in a 5%. That's awesome. But that's not what's happening. So I would say she's probably asking you to put her down probably around 8:30 a.m. and again at around noon, somewhere in that area. But you see her get tired, but you push her too far. You probably fell into that, oh, we do 9 and 1. We do 9 and 1. When what she's saying is she's so overtired before you guys even attempt the nap that then you guys are doing all these crutches. And then, so basically you're going to just have to commit to saying it's nap time. You've got to figure out how to go to sleep on your own. And she does know how to do it. She just doesn't do it because you guys have done it for her. But it's going to take time because of the habits.
Yeah, because we're going between the 4 naps to 3 naps now, because she takes such little naps. So we were stuck on the 4 naps forever.
Yeah. No, you're not. You just aren't understanding her daytime circadian rhythm. So it is at around 6 months that our brains start asking for nap times. So I guarantee you see her acting tired at particular times in the morning. Oh, yeah. And so nail it, put her in her crib and walk away for 90 minutes to 2 hours because that's what she needs. But right now,
90 minutes. Oh my goodness. Okay. I usually can't do it more than 40.
So picture this at 6 months. Everything I'm going to teach you is how her brain connectors work. I say habits, but I'm going to get technical with you. Connectors. So a synapses fires off in her brain. Hey, I'm tired. Then how you guys have been responding consistently is what that brain is looking for to connect it. Every action, every synapses that fires off needs another one to connect. Then a time comes where you're like, all right, oh, well, I need you to sleep more. So then what happens is her brain has to fire that synapses, go through all those crutches that you guys have done and actually say, oh, you mean I'm just supposed to close my eyes and go to sleep? That's the hard work. That's called sleep training.
So Davis, what is a typical, you look at younger children and obviously when should a child sleep through the night? Like at what age are they capable of sleeping through the night the full way?
By the way, I want to back up and I'm going to answer that question, but I really want to nail something, this new thing that's called sleep regressions. Hey, you guys, they're not sleep regressions. They're developmental leaps that parents aren't prepared for, and you parents are the ones that cause the regression. Babies are just doing what they're doing. They learn how to cry harder, they learn how to cry faster, and then we respond because we've never heard them do that before. We've never seen them. Well, guess what? You've never had a 4-month-old before. They've never been 4 months. Then parents are responding, and they call it a sleep regression. They go through developmental leaps. We parents cause the regression. So just know that, right? You've got to be prepared for how your baby's going to change at these big developmental leaps. It's 4 months / 15 weeks, then we've got 6 months, 9 months. They are developmental leaps. We parents cause the regression. I want you to hear that.
So when you say you cause the regression, like it comes out of nowhere, and I'm sure everyone on this call are like, why is my baby not sleeping all of a sudden?
Yeah.
And how are we supposed to respond when our babies are sleeping and then all of a sudden just stop for 3 weeks? And you're like, how am I going to handle this? Like,
they don't stop for 3 weeks. They really don't. What happens is every crutch runs its course. So if we don't already have the good habits put in place, everything that we don't have put in place is exploding. So people say things were great until, no, you got away with some habits until you didn't. And those sleep developmental leaps really make that happen because they become more intelligent. So if you, like, let me give you an example. Let's just say you have a pacifier child and you're like, oh my gosh, it was great until 4 months. And then all of a sudden they're waking up every hour. I had to go put the pacifier back in every hour. That's because they get more sensitive to the crutches, more demanding of the crutches, more conditioned to the crutches. That's the word I want to use. They get more conditioned and then it becomes more, it just amplifies. So that's kind of the regression. Again, it's about being educated to know, okay, we're coming up on the 4-month regression. Okay, so let's see what we need to do. And it's okay if you see your child act weird, go check on them. But if you're like, okay, check. Okay, this is a big developmental leap. I need people to start calling it developmental leaps and not calling it sleep regressions, because the fact is it's developmental leaps that happen. Now, going back to, gosh, I don't even remember the question you asked me.
I don't either because I have baby brain. I'm like,
when should we expect a child to sleep fully through?
Thank you. Okay. So through the night actually means about 11.5 to 13 hours, with 12 hours being the most common, because their brains want to rest for 12 hours throughout the night. Like I said, I have some babies who do pretty well at 11.5 hours, but it's usually between 11.5 and 13 hours. That is what they need. So when you say that is actually what through the night means. And the good rule of thumb, because I'm going to talk about brains, you guys, brains. Body weight is really irrelevant to the ability of a child being able to sleep in long chunks. Working with multiples, that proves it over and over and over. So it's about brain, and brain comes with age, the development of brain. So the fact is that 12 weeks, 12 hours. 12 weeks, 12 hours. When your child is 12 weeks, they're very capable of doing 12 hours. I usually am pretty flexible with parents. I'm like, all right, fine, let's wait till 4 months. Great. But brain development says, and this is a good formula, you guys, that I hope everybody hears this, because of how your baby's brain develops. It's at that 6-week mark, that first chunk of sleep at the beginning of the night. We should see 6 hours, 7 hours, 7 weeks, 7 hours, 8 weeks, 8 hours, 9 weeks, 9 hours, until we get to between 12 and 15, 16 weeks, we should see 12 consistent hours. If we're not, it's because we've just gotten caught up in some habits.
sorry.
Oh, no, look at the little baby.
I know. It's real. We really have babies.
We really do. So you were talking about,
yeah, she borrowed.
Talking about brain breaks, and I know that when you came and worked with me, and I know there's probably a lot of parents in here, that mistake when their kids wake up and it's a brain, one of those breaks in their sleep pattern, which you talk about a lot, you think that they're actually up, but if you leave them, they'll go back down, which I learned when you were here, because I would hear her and I'd run in her room and be like, or 5 minutes later I'd run in, but really they require more time to be able to put themselves back to sleep. And you keep talking about these breaks in sleep, and I want you to kind of explain that to everyone, because I think it's so important, because as parents you run in there and you're like, I need to help them, and you really just need to give them a minute or like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So Chantel, that's great, because I remember what I was saying before is I really want to talk about this cried out stuff. Okay. The majority of why we do what we do is because we're so committed to keeping them quiet. One of the biggest things I do is I teach you what your baby is trying to say to you. And that is huge. But what's really important to know is that you can say cry it out, you can say whatever, but if you do everything appropriately, you guys have to remember a baby's crying is very similar to our thinking. And that is really important to know. And so, like I said, if you want to call it the cry it out, great, but you'll never be able to change habits without a baby processing. That's what I call it. I call it processing, not crying, because crying conjures up a lot of emotions. Babies do not cry the reason you cry. And if you try to change habits without letting a baby process their frustration and decompression, you're just trading up one habit for another. So not all cries are created equal. So if you think about a baby putting decompressing into sleep the way we do, we all lie down, we start thinking about life. Sometimes babies need to decompress. And so here's something really good for you guys to know, is that from birth till death, the average person takes 10 to 20 minutes to go to sleep and 10 to 20 minutes to go back to sleep. It is always respectful for you to give that to your child, no matter how they want to do it. And again, working with multiples, it's so easy for me to see that, because you'll have one that just like puts their little head down and is like, peace out, going to sleep. Then you have one that just needs to belt out all of their decompression. So just keep that in mind. But these sleep pattern breaks that Chantel was talking about, they're natural, they're normal. They happen less at night because our melatonin is higher, so we go into deeper sleep. But during the day, those sleep pattern breaks, the most common ones are 20, 30, and 45 minutes. They need time to cross over. So they're very natural and normal. It's just that some babies are very, very loud about crossing to the next one. So does that answer your question, Chantel? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
So my baby, I'll give her a little bit of time, but then she's so hysterical with her crying that I don't know what I'm meant to do. And I think a lot of people feel that way too. Like I'll leave her for 5 minutes, then 10, then she'll just get heightened and heightened and heightened. And I'm like, do I wait 10 minutes and then walk in and say everything's okay, then walk back out? Or do I just let her continue to cry until she stops crying? And that could take the first night an hour. Like, what am I meant to do?
Well, okay, think about this for a second. First of all, you want to ask yourself why you're going in there to just let them know you're there. Because if you are trying to go to sleep, just try this just as an experiment, you guys. Tonight, when you lie down with your partner and you're going to sleep, if you're not asleep within 5 minutes, I need your partner to start talking to you and just say, hey, I love you. I'm here. I'm here. And then if you're not asleep in 10 minutes, have them do it again. And then again, tell me how crazy that would drive you. You wouldn't be able to go to sleep.
Yeah.
The other thing that we do too, inadvertently and so lovingly, is we walk into our children's room. Now, again, this is, you guys, a lot of these questions I'm answering, it helps to have an age reference to go on, because answering that question about a 15-month-old is so much different than answering that about a 3-month-old. So I just want you guys to know. But what we have a tendency to do is we walk into their room when they're hysterical. And then what we do is we're actually training them to get hysterical. Because it doesn't mean anything to them. It's action response, especially in toddlerhood. 12 months and up and forward is toddlerhood. So if you walk into a toddler's room mid-hysterical, guess what you're training that toddler to do? Be very intelligent. Why would I freak out? They're going to come in and I get to see my favorite person again. So it's always a good idea to know how much brain rest your child needs throughout the day. And when they go in the crib, you mind your own business. You let them do their brain rest. And when you're undoing all this, of course, there's going to be hysterical because of what you actually, again, very lovingly but inadvertently train them to do.
Can I just step in and say, I don't have any kids yet. I've got one coming in 3 months.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Based on all of this, what should my expectations be when I first come home from the hospital? Because I'm hearing a lot of, it's different between 4 and 12 and whatever. What are my expectations for my child through the night when we first get back? Should I be feeding them every time they wake up, or is that setting up bad habits for the future? All those different kinds of things. What should those first few months look and feel like?
Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes on the first few months. So I would say, what should you expect the first few weeks, right? Because it does sit in 3-week chunks until we get to like 3, 6, 9 months. Okay. You guys, listen, I know like I said, being a postpartum doula, even at the hospitals, it's like they don't even teach you anything other than if your baby so much as squeaks, put them to the breast, put them to the breast, put them to the breast, put them to the breast. Okay, that's okay until your milk comes in. But after that, you've got to know what your baby needs when they need it. And so what I'm saying here is that, yes, once your milk is in, we need to have them on a more eating schedule, because breastfeeding wise, now I'm assuming I'm talking to somebody who wants to breastfeed.
Yeah.
If it doesn't work out, please don't beat the hell out of yourself for it. But again, what we miss is that it takes the mother's body 3 to 4 hours to create a meal for the baby. It takes the baby's body 3 to 4 hours to digest a meal. So that's why it's really important to do. And what we get in a habit of is like breastfeeding is just feed on demand, feed on demand, feed on demand. What you're doing is you're not listening to your baby. So here's what I can tell you in a nutshell is this: ask yourself 2 questions. First of all, you have to know how long a baby can be awake at each age. So let's just say you want advice on the first 3 weeks of life, right? Your baby has an awake time availability of about 30 to 45 minutes. Okay. You guys, I'm going to give everybody the best piece of advice for a child 0 to 12 weeks old. If everybody's taking notes, please write this down. If your baby will not make direct eye contact with you from 0 to 12 weeks old, when you're holding them out, like kind of cooing with them face to face for more than 5 seconds, they're tired. Lack of eye contact means I'm tired. Okay. And I guarantee you it's going to be 30 to 45 minutes. So what I'm saying to you in this instance is when you know your baby is tired, you need to put them down. So the 2 questions you're going to ask yourself when your baby's acting weird and you're like, okay, well, I'm told to feed on demand, you need to ask yourself 2 questions. When was the last time my baby ate? If it was over 3 hours ago, feed your baby. They're saying I'm hungry. Second is, when was the last time my baby slept? And if it's over 45 minutes, they're probably saying to you, for the love of Mother Mary, put me down. I got to go to sleep. Okay.
Yes, that is very helpful. I've never heard that about the lack of eye contact.
I know it's the biggest gem, and I teach it to everybody, and it's a game changer.
Does that work for older kids past a year?
No, it doesn't work after 12 weeks. It's 0 to 12 weeks.
My husband doesn't look me in the eye. Is he tired? I'm sure he's tired.
You're like, stare at me, kid.
I'm like, look at me.
So I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, for example, for Kennedy, and I know some other moms in here are wondering the same thing. She's going through one of the developmental leaps. She's trying to walk.
Yes.
So she spends a lot of time during her naps, and I give her plenty of time out, like before she goes down for a nap, to stand and try to walk and everything. But when she's in the crib now, she is just focused on like standing and trying to figure it out, that like her naps are so much shorter, and
Yeah.
I don't know what to do if that's just like a moment in time, or like when they're teething or they're sick or they're going through these leaps, like what are you supposed to do when their naps are affected by that?
It's a gem of a question, Chantel, gem of a question, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. You have to follow the rules. So you know Kennedy needs 2 naps a day, and you know that she needs to be in there a minimum of 90 minutes, ideal 2 hours. What Kennedy is doing in there, you've got to let go, because you're right. This is a developmental leap, right? So here's what the common mom would do is like, oh, she was taking great naps. Now she's learning how to walk, and she just sits there and tries to pull up the whole time. I'm just going to go ahead and go get her. No, because it is a moment in time. This is her developmental leap. Inside of that crib, this will make a lot of sense, you guys. The brain is confused during developmental leaps because what it's saying is, I'm tired, but I'm awake enough to practice. Because that's what she's doing. And then finally she's like, all right, I'm done. I'm just going to lie down. You follow the rules, and those developmental leaps take care of themselves. Because guess what? Once she masters that skill, she won't care to practice anymore in the crib.
So it's okay that, you know, I keep her in there for her nap time, but she's only sleeping for like 40, 45 minutes of that nap time.
It's fine
as long as she's in her
think
crib
about this
for that time.
Absolutely. And I've said this a couple times during this call, is it's about brain rest, right? You guys, as soon as we open the door to our children's rooms, they start being bombarded with stimulation, right? We're playing with them. We're in their faces. We've got toys. Whether they're sleeping or not, their brain still needs that rest throughout the day. So what you just said, Chantel, was beautiful. If you decided to start going in there at 45 minutes saying, well, she's not going to sleep anyway, you are the one who's causing the regression. Make sense? Okay.
Your fault, Chantel.
Okay, Chantel, don't do it.
Don't do it, Chantel.
So you're saying if the child is sleeping like 30 to 45 minutes, which is usually not enough, because I know that she can take a nap of an hour and a half, which she has done it before, you just kind of wait it out for those 90 minutes window?
Yeah, let it, because again, brain rest. But in your situation too, you've got some unwinding to do, right? So it's a little different, but in general, like Kennedy has been a very good sleeper since before Christmas when I visited with them. So now Chantel's actually seeing a real developmental leap happen. And now it's like Chantel just needs to stay back and let her brain rest. But brain rest is so important, you guys. And the only place they get it is in their beds. They don't get it hanging out with us.
When is typically, my brain's not working because I haven't had enough sleep.
I hear you.
When typically should a baby go from 2 naps to 1 nap? And how do you know when they're ready?
The average baby drops down to 1 nap a day. And you guys, it's really about the sleep needs changing throughout the day. And it happens usually between about 15 and 20 months. With 18 months, ideally, they're down to 1 nap a day, sleeping 90 minutes to 2 hours for that nap. That's ideal. But you guys, that transition is long, hard, and takes time and persistence. I actually have a little program I do called the Nap Nudge, because that's what we do. So it's like just nudging it. But you've got a 15-month-old, so I'm assuming you're starting to see it happen.
Oh, now I feel like a worse mother because she's been taking 1 nap for months. She will not take that second nap since she was probably 13 months. And
it's okay.
It'll be 2 hours.
Don't worry about it.
40 minutes the next day. I don't know.
I wouldn't sweat it too much. Some babies start a little early, but my guess is like, you know, that's just the way you're saying things. Like she just wouldn't. She just wouldn't.
Got a personality of her own.
Well, and actually, you guys, we really can't trust toddlers.
Yeah, no SHIT.
I mean, it's our job to know what they need, because basically all she was doing was resisting, because then she was just throwing a little tantrum and you're like, okay, fine. She may not have been ready, but you're not a horrible mother. You just don't know what you didn't know.
Yeah, and I think the second child, I don't know who has 2 children on this chat, but I think the second child, you don't have as much time for the second child. Well, that's not true. You have to take care of both of your children. So you try to do what's easiest to just get through. Sometimes it's about survival, but what you're saying is right. You set up such bad habits that you ultimately don't get what you want, because you spend the next couple of years in survival mode when maybe you would only have had to spend a couple weeks.
Absolutely.
So, yeah,
spot on.
I think that's the problem.
Well, look at it this way too. If we put food in place of sleep in conversations, right? If we did, like, nobody's going to come to me and say, you know what, Davis, I'm in survival mode, so I just give them McDonald's 3 times a day. They eat Doritos for dinner because I got to spend time with my older child. Like, nobody ever has that conversation, right? So if we were to take food and sleep and put it together, like, nobody has ever said to me, well, Dad won't see the baby if we put him to bed at the right time. And I say, would you ever say, baby, I know you're hungry, but you got to wait till Daddy gets home? You would never say that.
Yeah.
And we need to switch that around, because sleep is job 1. And you can have it all. You can make sure your child gets the right amount of sleep, no matter what your lifestyle is, if you know when they need it.
And ultimately, we get more sleep. I think there's probably a lot of desperate mothers on this Zoom chat, because as much as we want our babies to sleep, we want to freaking sleep too, you know? And
well, it's not about wanting, it's about needing. So let's get over this want, because I hear that a lot. Well, I'm a mom now. No. There are no extra rewards for martyrs. There's no woe is me, I'm the victim of my child. If you're tired, times it by 10, and that's your child. This isn't about want. This is about need. It's about need. And if you're exhausted, trust me, your immune system, your milk supply, everything under the sun is suffering because, let me say it again, sleep is job one, and circadian rhythms do not like to be messed with. That's why you're miserable when you're tired, because your circadian rhythms is saying, my brain isn't getting taken care of. So what we end up doing is overeating a lot of times.
Don't I know it? I've been to that 600 times already today, and it's only 1:48. Okay, so we have so many questions in the chat, so I'll let Chantel and Cecilia go through some of them that I'll view as Zoom viewers, and we'll go from there.
Okay, so
awesome.
one person here says they have an 8-month-old and she's up for about an hour and a half to 2 hours before napping during the day.
Yep.
When should her up time begin to increase?
Probably not until about, I would say what's gonna increase is last nap, second nap, the end of second nap to bedtime. That final nap of the day will go away. So that's where it starts increasing. But between morning and first nap, between naps 1 and 2, that's gonna stay pretty steady until that 15 to 20 month nap transition. So, because again, if I were to say to people, everybody pay attention to when you're tired today. We all have those times. So where Kennedy is like tuned in. Kennedy's gonna be a mother someday, and she's gonna be like, I don't know how I know this stuff, but it's just in my subconscious. But so I would say to that mom in particular, you're probably seeing pretty organized naps too, of like maybe, like I said, 7:30 to 8 a.m. again between 11:30 and 12. So that's gonna kind of stay there. It's probably gonna max out at about 2 hours maybe. But right now,
she'll
that's
drop the third nap soon, though, right?
Yep.
So you'll
the
have
third
a longer
nap.
afternoon.
Exactly.
This wasn't a question, but I thought of it earlier and then I forgot. But I just wanted to talk about like positive and negative sleep associations. Like I know when you came, I had like a mobile thing in her crib and a lovey and a this and a that, and you're like sleep sack, noise machines, and you're just like, take it all away. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? Like my child needs these things. So I know that a lot of parents probably are using a lot of these things to help support their children's sleep and not realizing like kind of less is more when it comes to sleep. But so I just wanted to kind of bring that up because that's something that I had no idea about.
Okay, so a couple of things. Yeah, no, it's so true. Children are just like us when it comes to sleep. Like mobiles and stuff are actually the most ridiculous things in the world, because I've never known an adult who's like, yeah, I have this thing dangling right above my face. Go to sleep. So it's really important to know that there should be zero stimulation in the crib, just like with your bed. The other so I don't know if I'm getting feedback or if somebody's not on mute.
Talk about certain things. Tammy, you should be able to.
Can everyone please mute themselves and then we'll continue? Thank you.
Okay, but absolutely no stimulation at all in the crib. Loveys are okay, but sometimes I find that they become more distracting to children, but they don't need them, you guys. And children, the gift that we can give our children is no attachments. And what I mean by that, and how do we know something's an attachment? Imagine yourself driving to the airport and going, oh shit, we forgot. And then anxiety kind of coming over you. So as far as attachments, they don't need them. What they need is a safe sleep environment. And that is really, really, really what they need. So yeah, I am kind of anti-product person. They just need a healthy sleep surface and comfortable pajamas. They don't need a sound machine. They don't need anything else other than a healthy environment. That's it.
No sound machine?
No.
I don't sleep with a sound machine because everyone's so freaking loud in my house.
I put one in the hallway. I put one in the hallway to drown out the noise.
Yeah. It's okay to do that.
Grayson running by and all of us walking by her room. I put it in the hallway.
That's what I always suggest.
Anyone.
Because if you want to muffle it, you guys, what you're trying to avoid is sleep triggers. That's what you want to avoid. So yes, with Chantel's house, you have to walk right by Kennedy's room. So put it on the outside to muffle any loud noises. But as far as needing it, no. No.
This is amazing. Although now I don't know where to begin. I'm like, I need to start over. Okay, so another question is mentioned about the bottle, which we need to talk about maybe after this chat. Should he not be drinking his milk from a bottle with a straw?
What?
I'm gonna read it again. About the bottle. So I think it's about the bottle that when I put my daughter down with the bottle. What about drinking his milk from a bottle with a straw? Or like, can he drink milk, like actually feed him?
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying. So first of all, I just want to let everybody know I'm 100% anti-milk. Okay. So, but if you milk your baby, rock on. It just has to be balanced. So if whenever you give your child milk, no matter what kind it is, please do a sippy cup with a straw. So their bodies are up and down, and they're actually drinking it versus kicking back and sucking. It's the kicking back and sucking that's a problem. So yeah, if you want to do milk, great, whatever. It should be more with a straw, so their body's actually more up and down than this.
Okay, you mean close to bedtime, right? Is that?
Well, never for bedtime. Never.
Yeah. I think they're talking about like around bedtime, right? You should do it. How far in advance before bedtime should you be feeding your baby their last feeding?
Well, it depends how old, right? So that was an example of 12 months and older, okay? But if a child is under, then the bedtime routine should be dinner, bath or pajamas, bottle, breast, bed. Like, so no sleeping, no feeding to sleep. You guys never, ever, ever feed to sleep. So it should be far enough that their brain knows, okay, this is my last meal of the day.
So I've always been anti-milk because I don't drink milk, because I'm like, I just feel like there's just so many hormones, and why are we giving out children something that's designed to make a calf into a cow? Like, I get the whole idea about milk and why some people do it and why some people don't. But then what are you supposed to give them? Or are you supposed to give them, once they're past one, not supposed to give them anything? Are you just meant to have dinner, bath, then they go to bed? That seems so strange to me. Like, I would love that to happen, but I don't know how I can make that happen.
Because you haven't done it. So it's hard to see it. But really, after a year old, for all the parents out there, what a good bedtime routine is just like that. You eat dinner, you take your bath, or if not bath night, throw pajamas on, do a story or two that shouldn't last more than 2 to 5 minutes, and then down. Because remember, bedtime routine is designed to be a decompression. Nothing more, nothing less. So it's like a road, it's just like us. We all have bedtime routines. We're just not really aware of them because we've been doing them for so long.
So what happens when you do this for the first time? It's going to be horrible, right? I mean, like, so you put the baby down after your sleep, after your stories, and then they're very upset. Then what do you do next? Because I'm sure a lot of people here are going to try this, but then what is our next step?
Again, I can't answer that because we have to do age preference. We have to do ages because, again, not every age is different. But one of the things that I want to say to you is words matter. And you just said she can be so upset. No, she's not. She's going to be frustrated because learning new skills is frustrating. That's it, you guys. Their brains are not capable of feeling anything other than frustration, because literally you picture the synapses firing off in the brain, then the brain looking for all those habits, the milk, the crashing and burning, everything. So then the brain is like going, whew. And then finally it lies down and goes to sleep, and we've built a connector. Mm-hmm. And then with consistency, when she goes down, that's what she expects. That's what she expects. That's what she expects. That is, you have to just recondition. Yeah. And that is not a peaceful process because frustration happens. I always use the example of this. If you've ever sat in a class, well, listen, a lot of parents on this call are very frustrated. A lot of them are actually pissed off at me right now. It's just the way it goes. But the thing is I always say, think about when you've sat in like the first day of class at college, or you're training for a new job that first week. You're so frustrated because your brain doesn't know what to do with all the new information. So anytime we learn something new, we feel frustrated because literally we are building those little squiggly things you see in brain things. We're actually building them. And that is a very frustrating feeling. That's also why it's very difficult for adults to break habits and create new ones, because we don't like being frustrated, and we have a million ways to avoid feeling frustrated. That's just fact. That's just biological physiology. Fact. There's no arguing with that, because it's fact of how we work. So yes, is she going to be frustrated? Like no one's business. She is. But her brain has to filter through all those things you've done. Okay, not crashing and burning. All right, I have to find sleep. That's a hard one to break, the crashing and burning and then sleep. Where's my bottle? Where's my kick to dopamine? Where's everything? Where's that sucking? Where's all of it? And then finally the brain goes through all of those and then goes, oh, okay, got it.
Amazing.
Another question we have is going over appropriate wake times and daytime sleep for a 3-month-old. She says that her 11-week-old is currently going to bed at 8 p.m. and has 5 naps. How do they eliminate a nap and give her a more appropriate bedtime?
Well, so that's a really, really, really good question. So I would say back up her bedtime, because her last nap actually should be ending no later than 4:45 p.m. And the reason for that, you guys, like I said at the beginning of this call, you guys, I'm going to be very technical about a child's circadian rhythms. So at 4:45, you want to break day sleep off, because once the child gets into the 5 o'clock hour, that's where the serotonin and melatonin want to start switching over. Serotonin wants to say, okay, I'm done. I want melatonin to kick in now. So that's when that happens. So you want to kick that, you want to stop day sleep there. Then you go for an 11-week-old, you guys, 11 weeks old. That's what I'm talking about here. Then you want to go about an hour later, and that's her age appropriate bedtime. So let's say this child woke up at 4:30. I'd say have her back in bed by 5:30, no later than 5:40, a 60 to 70 minute awake window. That's how you get rid of all that napping during the day, because those naps, that any sleep that's happening between 5 and 8, you're thinking is a nap, and it's actually nighttime sleep going on. So treat it as nighttime sleep, and you'll see the day kind of take care of itself.
Okay, let's see. This one says, my baby just hit 5 months and is screaming constantly. Usually he's happy and screaming. They refuse to eat, and he cries before every nap and at bedtime. He's got 4 naps a day, each between 30 minutes to 2 hours.
Okay, so what's the question?
I think
How to stop him from, because there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, it feels like the question is probably how do we calm him down when getting him into bed.
Well, the reason why he's screaming so loud in so much is because they've worked so hard at calming him down. So that's exactly, like when we're so committed to keeping them quiet, we forget what they need. So it's all about locking in those age appropriate nap times and bedtimes and handing over the responsibility to this child. Now, everything that 3 or 4 sentences said, this is a child that needs sleep training, meaning we have to change the conditioning of their brain, because so my guess is that there's a lot of feeding going on. So probably a lot of letting them go to sleep and then putting them down, then waking up. That would be my guess that's going on. But again, a lot of times what happens is we're constantly trying to feed them, and they're like saying no, because our babies' tummies are like the gas tank of our car. When it's done, it's done. And so we try to feed, because what's going on? They must be hungry. And then, or we try to get them to sleep through eating, then we put them down. So I would say that would take a lot of dismantling about getting the right times down for a 5-month-old, getting the right meal times down for a 5-month-old, and then handing over the age appropriate responsibility to this 5-month-old. And that's how you stop them from freaking out all the time.
We'll take a couple more questions because we know, and then we didn't tell anyone here, but we are going to give one lucky person their own session, and I hope it's me. No, it's not going to be me. I wish it was me. Okay, so I'm going to ask a couple more questions, and then we'll go. But this is a good one. It's what's the best way to handle sleep or lack of sleep with teething
Okay, good.
Sick
That's
or
a good one.
developmental leaps, which you did talk about before, but the teething gets me every time.
Okay, so your baby's teething, people. I got it. Your baby's teething until they have a full set of teeth. So they are always teething, okay? It is medically proven over and over and over and over that it's not painful for them, but it is annoying. So the pH in the body changes, and so that's what sometimes causes the low-grade fevers. Sometimes you get acidic poos, and then, you know, sometimes their cheeks get a little rosy, but it's really the annoyances of teething, of like trying to cram the whole couch in their mouth, right? You know, it's peacefully sleeping and then slobber pouring out and they wake up in a big pool of slobber, right? So, but again, they're always teething. So well-rested children do pretty good with teething, because tiredness, if you're annoyed and you're tired, doesn't it amp it up like Godspeed, like crazy? So that's how you want to handle it, is correct sleep helps with everything that they go through, but teething is more annoying to them than it is painful, and I promise you that. And always ask yourself, like a lot of moms will say, oh no, they were teething, and so now they're up all night. And I said, well, how did you cure this teething pain for them? Oh, I fed them. And I can say to you, there's no amount of feeding that ever cures teething annoyances. It's just letting them do what it, you know, get through it and help them out a little bit. So like, let me give you an example. If you have a 4-month-old who's slobbering all over the place, and you know, you see in your monitors, you can see they're laying in a pool of slobber like this, just go in and gently move them over. You don't have to pick them up and feed them. But I'll say it again, you guys, your babies are teething all the way up until, what is it, 2 years old, where they get a full set of teeth. They're always teething. It should not cause any problems, big sleep problems. It just shouldn't. There's other stuff going on.
That's so great. Okay, we've got one more here.
Okay.
If we could talk about the differences between bedtime and nap sleep. Maybe we covered this. If you think we've covered this, we can move to another question. My child is 6 months and she's a great sleeper at night and struggles with naps. I feel like we're in that same boat.
Well, I did answer that, but it's okay. I'm happy to answer it again. I see Chantel's in the corral.
Where she lives these days.
I've been in that corral. So again, it's all about knowing what time is the magic time for a 6-month-old. And I'm going to say it again, ideally a 6-month-old wants to be in their crib by 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. 8 a.m. and 12 p.m. Those are the magic 6-month nap times, right? So, but again, I always say, like even with the gal that I talked to before, she's like, she sleeps great at night, and I'm going to say, no, she doesn't, right? So we have to know, got to get that night lockdown, that night lockdown. But at the same time, I'm going to say nap times for a 6-month-old, ideally start between 7:30 and 8, 11:30 and 12, and a short one at the end of the day at around 4. That's what their age-defined circadian rhythms say. I hope that helps.
I also want to make sure too, before we talk about the giveaway and everything, if people in this chat want to find out more information or how they can work with you outside of this, do you have a website? Is it best to get in contact through your social media, a phone number? What's the best way to hear?
Absolutely. So my website is just up there. I don't even pay attention to it right now, but definitely reach out directly to me via text or email, even on my Instagram. And then, you know, basically that's how you can always reach me. I'm pretty accessible. My phone number is on everything. You know, again, you can DM me, whatever is easiest. Email, text, DM, great.
Back because there's still so many questions that everyone has. So thank you so much. You're going to give away one lucky person to be able to sit down with you, and you can personally help them through their sleep issues. And so on Bottle and Heels, on our Instagram page and on the website, we will announce that lucky winner on Monday. We're actually going to put this, I recorded the Zoom, don't worry, it's mainly of just you, Davis, and me yapping away. We're going to put this on the website, Bottle and Heels, so if you guys missed anything, then you can rewatch this back, and it can help you out. But I thank you so much. If I ever
my gosh, my pleasure.
If I ever have a third kid, I will enlist you in the beginning, so we don't have to go through this.
It's always a smart idea.
But I don't think, there's a lot of new moms, and the postpartum period is really hard. And I think that there's a lot of depression that goes around and anxiety. And it's funny because I had this epiphany the other day that I think a lot of that comes from lack of sleep for the mother. And so we need to get our children to be sleeping.
Sleep is
also the mother rest as well.
I can't even begin to tell you how important it is, because a lot of postpartum depression is real. Postpartum anxiety is real. But the thing is that sleep is what, think about it, anytime we're overtired, our emotions are not butterflies and rainbow. They are depressing. They are anxiety ridden. So sleep is job one. Sleep is job one. A baby and mom who sleeps well does everything well. A baby who eats well just eats well, right? So that's a huge, like, I can't even begin to tell you how important it is for us to start talking about sleep and really stay inside that conversation of sleep, because sleep is job one. And I want to give you a statistic that's very interesting. The US has the highest incidence of postpartum depression because we are a one-woman show. And it's that me. It's like, I just don't sleep. My babies, I don't sleep. So we aren't doing that. But as far as the world goes, postpartum psychosis is the same. So what does that tell us? It tells us that our environment and our societal practices play a part in the depression. But postpartum psychosis, the percentages are the exact same around the world, because that means it's real. It's just there. It's not environmental. So I'm saying, let's take better care of ourselves by let's get the sleep thing down, because it's a conversation that is not happening enough, especially in our medical community, but it's not happening enough. And sleep is job one. Healthy sleepers are not a crapshoot. It's just a learned skill that we have to help our babies know.
My husband, with my second child, gave me the gift of sleep. And so he did the nights with my second child. And I had no postpartum with the second child, and I had severe postpartum with the first. It was the nicest thing he could have ever given me, which makes me realize that this topic is so important, and it's so
important,
poignant and relevant, and we need to be talking about these types of things. And that's why it just like almost brings me to tears to have a community of people and women and mothers who are like, it's going to be okay. We just need to learn the tools and have information so that we can all be able to be the best mothers we can be, and wives as well. It affects marriages as well. So we thank you so much for giving your time. And
oh my gosh, my pleasure.
Some people, and we would love to have you back. And don't be a stranger. I'm going to call you right now. I need your help.
I'm happy to help. Happy to help. And I'm going to be posting Mother Day specials out too. So I may either post them today or tomorrow. I've just been so incredibly busy that I just haven't posted them. So just everybody on this can also be looking for those two, because I post some really phenomenal specials at Mother's Day and around my birthday, which is in 6 months. So always pay attention to my social media, because if I want people to take advantage of all of these, because again, this is about getting these little critters sleeping, because they need that brain health.
Thank you so much, Davis. And thank you all for joining our first ever Zoom with the Bottle and Heels team. We'll be having more Zooms in the next week, covering all different types of topics that all of us moms face. So thank you so much for this. And we all love you, because you're going to give us the gift of sleep.
Okay, bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye. Bye.